Hey y'all, I'm back again with another Pokemon Challenge video. Pokemon Red using only one Meowth was somehow even worse than coughing, but I'm committed to finishing the Team Rocket series, so up next is beating Pokemon Red using only one Ekans. As usual, the rules are I can only use Ekans in battle, and I can't use any items in battle. By the way, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and check out more of the videos on my channel. Besides being the focus of an incredible ring toss game in Pokemon Stadium, Ekans is also known for constantly getting beat up by Ash's Pikachu. This shouldn't be a surprise, considering how awful Ekans is on paper. The stats are dreadful, especially the base HP, and the level up moves are even worse somehow. The only serviceable moves Ekans can learn are via TM, so you know the early game is going to be rough. Alright, let's do this. Off at Professor Oak's lab, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Squirtle with Ekans so that our rival would pick Bulbasaur. I thought that Venusaur at the end of the game would be the most difficult for Ekans to handle, but in hindsight, it actually is probably not. Blastoise would have been bulkier and actually able to do decent damage, but there's not a lot I can do about it at this point, so let's all just hush up about that real quick. Now normally I come up with some kind of clever, punny nickname, but I went with a classic this time, and named our Ekans Sneaky Snake. Why, you might ask? Because I'm a snack. Well, Ekans only starts off with Wrap and Leer, and as you saw before, the level up moves won't get much more exciting than that, and I'm pretty sad. But nevertheless, we win the first rival fight with Bubs, but y'all know we're gonna have to grind crazy high right away in order to deal with Brock's Rocks. Considering the fact that Ekans is a weak snack with only normal moves, I never expected us to be able to beat Brock. Well, at all. Even before level 30, but Ekans learns Bite at level 12. So kinda like what we had with Meowth before, it's a huge improvement in terms of damage, plus there's a small chance to flinch the opponent, so that's really helpful. Combined with Wrap, there's plenty of opportunity to immobilize. But this does make the battle very slow. Since we have Bite, Wrap, and Leer, we actually have a winning combination against the Onix, who spends most of its time going for Bide, which we are easily able to dodge. As it uses Bide, we use Leer to lower its defense, and then do pitiful damage. But it is such a strange thought to imagine a tiny little snake battling a giant demonic boulder beast. That makes less sense than Onix losing to a friggin' sprinkler. Seriously. Onix could wear Ekans like a toe ring, for God's sake. Well, after beating Brock, we traverse Mount Moon to take on the rival Bubs in Cerulean City. Bite is actually able to make pretty quick work of his entire team, including that notorious Pidgeotto. It's frustrating that the Bird Brain lowers our accuracy with Sand Attack, but at least it does badge boost our attack stat a little bit higher. That's pretty cool. Also, if you're not familiar with badge boost, you're gonna get real familiar real soon, because I talk about it in almost every single video. Well, Misty's up next, and she's pretty strong and hard to beat, but we do have a solution. Ekans can learn the TM for Dig, which is just as strong as Earthquake in this game, and will be the strongest move Ekans will learn in the whole run. We also learned Glare, which paralyzes the opponent, including ground types, which are normally immune to paralysis. These two moves let Ekans dodge bubble beams from Starmie that would otherwise destroy our little snack. Aboard the SS Anne, once again I pick up the TM for Body Slam and teach it to Ekans. This is such a great move in all these runs. It's 85 base power with a chance to paralyze, and in this game, normal and ground can hit every Pokemon in the game for at worst neutral damage, so Ekans actually has decent coverage. And I'll take decent coverage, because it's the least this game can do for how dirty it did Ekans on the stats side. With Dig in tow, you would think that Lieutenant Surge would be a complete cakewalk. And he was! The second time that we fought. The first attempt, he actually critical hit a Thunderbolt with Raichu, and we lost. That was actually pretty surprising, because it's not very often that we lose to Lieutenant Surge. Well, when at first you don't succeed, try again, and dig a little bit harder. And I know it's just a tiny little sneaky Ekans, but the thought of a snake continuously burrowing underground and popping up again to attack, actually kind of terrifying. Up next is the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, where we take on the rival Bubs once again. Most of his team isn't an issue still, but I did struggle to win this battle because of the Gyarados. It's bulky, and because it's a flying type, we can't use Dig, but Body Slam's still decently strong. And also, it does know Hydro Pump, which is the strongest water type move in the game, so bit of an issue. Flying types in general are a big issue for Ekans, but Not for much longer. Stay tuned. Next up, I decided to take on Giovanni in the Rocket Game Corner hideout in Celadon City. He's got some decent Pokemon when you consider the fact that we don't have any special moves. Dig is super effective against his Rock-type Pokemon, but Ekans is so frail that we almost lose the battle anyways. This Sneck is really starting to show its frailty now that the opposing trainers are starting to get better and better Pokemon. After that, I head straight for the Celadon City Gym to take on Erica. This one was actually pretty tough, because Ekans' bulk is awful, and Vileplume kept putting us to sleep. Normally being a poison type would mean that Erica couldn't really do anything, but Ekans is so frail that even Vileplume's Mega Drain is doing significant damage. Eventually I win, using a combination of Glare Paralysis and Bite Flinches, which is not the most exciting strategy, but it's all that we have, honestly. Cut me a break, it's a friggin' Sneck. With growing concerns, I head to the Fuchsia City Gym to take on Koga and his poison Pokemon. I did this one next because Koga's badge will let us badge boost for speed, and since we have Dig, it shouldn't be too bad to take out his poison-type Pokemon. It's especially helpful when Koga goes out of his way to help us win, by going for self-destruct while we're digging underground. This is the reason why I haven't replaced Dig with Earthquake yet, even though Earthquake is just as strong, and usually a better move because it only takes one turn to hit, as opposed to two. Like I mentioned with Meowth, you know a Pokemon is bad if it struggles to beat Blaine. Our damage output is disappointingly low, and even with super effective damage, we take huge damage from Blaine's better attacks while hardly doing that much in return. We don't have much of a choice because the alternative is trying to take on Bubs who has an Alakazam, and that is just not happening. I had to retry this Blaine battle several times until eventually his Arcanine missed a takedown that would have otherwise ended the battle in complete and utter disaster. This is sad. We're talking about Blaine, people! Well, there's nothing left to do but take on Bubs at the Sylph Company building, but I kept losing to Alakazam being faster and knocking us out in one hit. Luckily though, I grab a few levels, and at level 48, we actually somehow outspeed the Alakazam, and then the rest of his team isn't too much of a problem. Pidgeot and Gyarados are significantly easier to deal with now that we have Rock Slide, which I got from the Celadon City department store. Ekans is actually one of the few Pokemon in the game that can learn Rock Slide, so good on you, Sneaky Sneck. And the battle with Giovanni afterwards is pretty straightforward, and we won on the first try, but still pretty eye-opening to see just how bad Ekans is. We can't even 2-hit KO his Kangaskhan, despite the fact that we're 14 levels higher. Seriously, I have no idea how we're going to beat Sabrina, and I'm getting even more concerned for our prospects in the Elite Four. Well, at least we're able to get the TM for Earthquake now and teach it to Ekans over Dig. Now, there's nothing left to do but take on Sabrina, and at our current level, we outspeed everything besides the Alakazam, of course. Also, her Pokemon go down in a single hit, except for the Alakazam, of course. I tried this one way more times than I'd like to share, until eventually I got an attempt where Alakazam went for Psywave, which is a terrible move that does random damage. Sometimes you just gotta take what this game gives you, though. Now it's time for the final gym battle against Giovanni in the Viridian City Gym. And this was, well, surprisingly, a big struggle. Dugtrio outspeeds and one-hit KOs us with Dig, so I had to find a way to outspeed the mole. And the way we do that is by stalling for time so that the Rhyhorn will lower our defense with Tail Whip. That activates the Badge Boost mechanics, where all of our Badge Boosts are reapplied because our stats were modified. This means we get a little bit more attack, a little bit more defense, and most importantly, a little bit more speed, enough to outspeed the Dugtrio, and slither past the rest of Giovanni's team. Well, up next is the rival fight with Bubs, before the Elite Four, and, well, this one was just impossible. Until I taught Mimic. Now, of course, as many of you know, Mimic lets you copy any move on the opponent, and here, we copy Agility. This not only lets us gain speed to outspeed the Alakazam, but also, as I previously mentioned, modifying our stats will badge boost the rest of our stats by a little bit, which is helpful for more attack and special. This mechanic is really helpful because we're able to beat Bubs at his same level, where otherwise we'd have to be like, I don't know, level 70? Here are the stats going into the Elite Four. This is actually a pretty great moveset, but as you can see from the stats, it's very sadly wasted on a pretty paltry Pokemon. So paltry, in fact, that I actually have to level up to 60 before I'm even able to knock out Lorelei's Cloyster, and that's the saddest thing I've ever said. Lorelei is up first, and the strategy is simple. We have to make it past the Dugong and Cloyster before we can use Mimic to copy Amnesia on the Slowbro. Amnesia will not only boost our special like you would normally expect, but as I've alluded to earlier, it will also badge boost the rest of our stats as well. With massive increase to our special from Amnesia, Ekans can actually survive Lorelei's special attacks, and the badge boost to attack help Rockslide deal with her Ice-type Pokemon. It's important to note here that once we actually get to the Slowbro, setting up is completely free, because of the smart AI. Lorelei wants to use super effective moves, so she'll only ever click Amnesia, and never actually do any damage. This happened several times earlier during the run, like against Bubs' Pidgeot when it knew Agility, and Blaine's Growlithe, because it also knows Agility. And also, Giovanni's Rhydon trying to use Fissure on our Sneck, even though Fissure only works if you're faster, and Rhydon slows Buns. Bruno's up next, and because we have Mimic, his Rock-type Pokemon aren't going to give us any trouble. We're able to copy Harden on the lead Onix, so we can boost our defense, but also badge boost, of course. The whole thing is about badge boosting with Ekans, because without it, Ekans is just a terrible Pokemon. I mean, we're poison type, so we resist his fighting type moves like high jump kick and submission, so it's not really like we need the defense boost from Harden. Legitimately, the badge boosts just make this battle a little bit faster, and by a little bit, I actually mean twice as fast. Literally, Ekans is so bad, so bad, that normally, without badge boosts, Bruno's Pokemon are all like 5-hit KOs. It's pretty sad. Next up is Agatha, and normally this battle makes me want to climb up a tree and fall out of it, but this time it's actually pretty easy, because we have Earthquake and Rock Slide, and we're Poison type. Then again, we're also still pretty weak, and you can see this, that by the end of the battle, we just barely hang on with a tiny little bit of HP. We don't get horribly confused or put to sleep though, so Earthquake and Rock Slide covers her entire team for super effective damage, which is normally not the case for these runs. Usually I have to struggle and finagle just to even hit her Ghost for damage, let alone knocking them out outright. So any Pokemon that can learn Earthquake makes this battle way easier. Next up is the Elite Four member Lance, and I want to point out something that actually happens a decent amount in these runs because of smart AI. Anytime you have a Pokemon that is weak to Psychic, Lance is basically a battle versus Gyarados and Aerodactyl. His two Dragonair and Dragonite know Psychic type stat boosting moves, which they will always go for and never actually do any damage to the Pokemon in question. So as long as you can knock out his lead Gyarados without getting completely eviscerated, the battle is usually free. With Mimic, you can copy Agility on the Dragonair and not only get your speed up, but also badge boost your stats. And with that, as long as you're able to knock out the Aerodactyl without getting knocked out in return, which can happen because it's a crit machine, this battle is a breath of fresh air. Because Lance can be horribly annoying. In other runs, he's been a complete brick wall, even harder than the champion. This battle also truly illustrates just how valuable Rock Slide is. Rock type coverage in this game is severely underrated. Well, now it's time for the champion, and right away, you're going to see me using rare candies, because this is bad. This is really, really bad. Bubs has an Alakazam, and Alakazam is fast, and Alakazam is a Psychic type, and we're a Poison type, so it's a bit of a problem. And I want to preface this by saying that I did try Bubs at every single level at which you're seeing me use a rare candy. And at none of those levels were we at any point in control. And that's because of Alakazam. So what we have to do is max out our level and just wait for Alakazam to make a mistake. There's no move that we can copy to badge boost, except for Growth on the Venusaur, but that won't help because it's at the end of the battle. So we have to hope for Alakazam to just not knock us out, to let us knock it out, and then best case scenario, if we want to, we can try and stall for time against the Rhydon the same way we did against Giovanni's Rhyhorn to let it hit us with Leers. But we don't do that here. Instead, Alakazam decides it doesn't want to fight, and I decide I do want to fight. So we're going balls to the wall with our Sneaky Sneck against Bubs. If the rival had a Blastoise here, then we might actually have to badge boost, but also that would mean that there'd be no Gyarados, and instead of a Venusaur, there's an Exeggutor, and then we could copy Hypnosis, so it's really kind of split on the difficulty. But none of that matters, because after much pain and sacrifice, I finally beat it. I finally won the challenge with one of the worst Pokemon imaginable. And all I can say is that I'm really glad to be done with this mini Team Rocket challenge that I did, because these three Pokemon, they don't cut mustard, my friend. It was way tougher than I imagined, and I really need a break from the chaos. Well, as always, I want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. These videos are a lot of fun, but also a lot of work, so I really do appreciate it. There's a playlist on my channel where you can find the rest of my Pokemon Challenge videos if you want to check those out. And there's a lot of them, so great to put on in the background, great to fall asleep to. If you need something to help you practice crying for an acting class that you're doing, perfect for that too. And if you like this kind of content and want to see more, subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know right away the next time one of these episodes is uploaded. And let me know in the comments what other Pokemon you want to see, and I'll probably do it. Next week, I'm doing a challenge that I've wanted to do for a very long time, beating Pokemon Red using only one Krabby. Kingler is one of my favorite Pokemon, so I'm ready to get kooky with this crab. Anyways, until next time,